Winter was a long time to wait for spring to bring colour and tourists back to the farming village of McGregor. Then farming family the Talyards had a brainwave.
I'm Steph.
I'm Dustin, and welcome to the Red Caboose.
We are based in McGregor, 4 kilometres from McGregor, 15 kilometres from Robertson. We have a little working farm. It's 9 hectares. We do free-range chicken, we keep people's horses, we make our own compost, and we have the Red Caboose as accommodation.
Yeah, we ran away from big city life. Both of us sort of met and established ourselves in Bloberg. We both wanted a country life, smaller communities, good place to raise your kids, and just enjoy a bit more space and a lovely community.
The Caboose was never planned. It happened by accident. Dustin found it online, and then it all started rolling from there.
And we weren't intending to buy it, but we walked out there, and I think it was about half an hour afterwards, we said, we're just going to have to buy this train. So we did. And the rest is history.
We hauled the Caboose by a diesel steam train to Ceres, and from Ceres it was collected with a big train and put on a flatbed, and then from there it came along and got set down here on its tracks. The tracks were hard to source. Eventually we got hold of some, and we got a local guy from the railway in Robertson to come and lay them for us.
In order for authenticity, we got ballast from a local quarry, which is another name for the stones, and then we sourced obviously the appropriate materials and had it levelled out. The exterior of the train had suffered quite a bit of water damage before we got it, so we needed to do quite a bit of waterproofing before we started anything on the inside. That meant jumping up on top there, ripping out old planks and rebuilding the roof for all intents and purposes. I always enjoyed restoring stuff. Something about the old stuff that just holds an appeal to me. When it comes to doing it without the modernity and the convenience, something a little bit of a challenge to it. I really, really do enjoy restoration. When we initially proposed to this project, I was naive. There's no other word for it. The scale and the depth to which we had to go for the restoration was pretty hard to judge when we bought the train. Funny enough, we didn't actually see the train in daylight. We walked around with cell phone torches in the dark under a bridge. Once the project started, it became quite apparent that it wasn't going to be a quick fix. And then obviously just wanting to restore it authentically to make sure that it would last for another 80 odd years, I felt the responsibility to do it properly. The screws are probably the most symbolic thing about the restoration. By my calculations, took probably about 50,000 odd screws off, and then ultimately ended up polishing each and every single one of them. It's again, probably lends itself to my being a little bit more pedantic than I should, but it's nice to know that they're back. They're original and they're good quality, right? They're 80 years old and they still work. The restoration was pretty much get everything back to original as far as possible. Biggest thing to overcome here was the paint. Everything was painted avocado green and about 15 layers that we had to strip down. Ultimately, it took a bit of liberties with the color palette here, but I think it came out pretty good.
The Caboose's kitchen has everything you need, but we've tried to keep it as authentic as possible. So we've kept the overhead compartments so that when the train was moving, none of the items would fall out. We also have the lovely old water pump and the overhead storages. And although we have made some changes to make it convenient for guests, we have kept it as authentic as possible.
The light fittings and electrical fittings are all original to the train. Only thing that wasn't included was plug points. So we've had to electrify with that and obviously modernize all of the existing infrastructure. So the dining booth was originally the accommodation for the back of house staff. We took 1 or 2 liberties here and saw a need to put in a dining booth. This is original to the class of train. Unfortunately, this came off a condemned train that we managed to rescue. And then we got a couple of really nice details, some really old fittings that I'm sure some of the people that used the trains back in the day would remember.
This room was in a particularly bad state when Dustin started the restorations. The walls had water damage, the shutters have all been restored, we added the wallpaper and just gave it a nice finish for people to enjoy a meal or play cards when the weather isn't great outside. This is the bathroom. It's my favorite room in the Caboose. Everything is original. The basin folds down. It's got a push flush. The bath is original. Everybody who comes, all our guests are surprised to see the bath in here. And Dustin was going to remove it to restore it, but figured out we wouldn't be able to get it out the doors. So we had to restore it inside the train. So originally they would have built the train around the bath.
The bunk room, or what used to be the master suite, by far required the most attention to detail. A lot of the stuff here took a fair amount of restoration. As far as authenticity, this is pretty much as it would have been. Little details like the blinds, reading lamp, a fold-down bunk, another basin, reading desk, there's a radiator, all made this one of the most labor-intensive rooms to restore. The windows in particular are quite a challenge. Each of them have a blind, a shutter, and an operational window. It probably would have taken me about 2 weeks per window.
This is the main master bedroom. And what I love about this room is the beautiful views from the bed. You can see the vineyards, the valley, the mountains, and overlooking the splash pool, the hot tub, and the fire pit.
This room originally would have been referred to as the saloon. The saloon would have been the main sort of work area of either an engineer on a specific site or a pastor doing some missionary work. It did have additional beds, bunk accommodation, but we just saw fit to turn it into a luxurious master suite.
We decided to restore the train rather than renovate the train, just to get it back to its former glory and get everything inside looking as it did 81 years ago. The Caboose was always the last train at the end of the line, and it was used as accommodation.
Yeah, its main function would have been a rear braking car with a top turret to have line of sight to the steam engine, and that's how they would have communicated visually with flags. Future projects? Maybe procuring 2 more train carriages, fingers crossed, and just hopefully just continue adding to the offerings that McGregor and the surrounds have and just be integrated with the tourism here.
If you were born a century too late for steam trains, head for McGregor. Pack little more than your imagination, climb aboard, and you'll be there.